Come on!
Looks like there are a bunch of different ideas floating around for what How to Train Your Dragon 4 could be about. Some fans think that the story might follow Hiccup and Astrid's kids as they grow up and start building their own bond with dragons. Others are all about the idea of the dragons making a big comeback, like maybe something serious happens that forces them to leave the hidden world and return to the human world. Either way, here's everything we've heard so far about these whispers and theories surrounding a possible fourth movie. If DreamWorks ever decides to go back to How to Train Your Dragon for a fourth movie, there's one thing they absolutely have to do: bring back Dean Dubla. Without him on board, there's honestly no point in making another one. He's not just another director who came in to help, he's been the heart and soul of the series. He co-directed the very first How to Train Your Dragon back in 2010 with Chris Sanders, and the two of them also wrote the script alongside Will Davies. But here's where it gets even more impressive. Dubla took the reins completely for the second and third films. He wrote and directed both of those on his own, and it shows, because they were just as strong, if not stronger than the first. Dubla brought a level of emotional depth, storytelling finesse, and visual wonder that really elevated the franchise. Without him, it's hard to imagine a fourth movie capturing the same magic, because let's be honest, How to Train Your Dragon wasn't just a fun kids movie, it was one of the best fantasy films of the 2010s, full stop. So if DreamWorks tries to continue the story without Dubla, there's a real risk of damaging the entire trilogy's legacy. It might still make money, sure, but it won't feel the same, and that could hurt more than help. Now, it's not like DreamWorks hasn't considered continuing the story, but Dubla has been pretty firm about wrapping it up with A Hidden World. Back in a 2014 interview with Collider, he even mentioned that he'd managed to talk down DreamWorks co-founder Jeffrey Katzenberg from pushing for a fourth film. According to him, the story already had a neutral 3-act structure, and stretching it further didn't make sense. His exact words were all about keeping the integrity of the story intact, and honestly, that's fair. It's rare these days for a trilogy to end so satisfyingly, so cleanly. That said, people change their minds, and while he might have said no back then, who knows what the future holds? Especially with a live-action remake on the horizon, there's a chance that renewed interest might reignite something in him, or at least open the door to new possibilities. But if DreamWorks does go ahead without Dubla, it's kind of like trying to fly Toothless without a tail fin. It might take off, but it won't go far. The original trilogy was beloved for a reason. Each film hit the perfect mix of action, emotion, and heart, and it kept getting better with every installment. Pulling off a fourth movie without the guy who made that all happen would be like replacing Hiccup halfway through the story. It just wouldn't sit right. So if DreamWorks is even thinking about greenlighting How to Train Your Dragon 4, they need to tread carefully. Because the story, if continued, has to feel like it belongs. And the good news? There are a few interesting directions it could go. One idea that fans have tossed around is shifting the focus to Hiccup and Astrid's kids. The Hidden World hinted at this during the beautiful epilogue scene where Hiccup introduces his children to Toothless and his dragon family. It was a touching moment, and it left the door open for a whole new generation of dragon riders. A story centered on Hiccup's kids discovering their own bond with dragons could strike a nice balance between nostalgia and fresh beginnings. Another cool direction could be the return of the dragons. Even though they all retreated to the hidden world at the end of the third film, you could imagine some kind of threat or big event pulling them back into contact with humans. That kind of storyline could give us a reason to bring Hiccup and Toothless back together. And honestly, who wouldn't want to see that duo team up again? And speaking of the hidden world, it was such a major focus in the last movie, but we barely scratched the surface of it. A fourth film could dig deeper into that mysterious realm. Think of the new dragon species, the unique environments, and maybe even dragon cultures we haven't seen before. There's so much potential there for world building, and it's a goldmine for animation. Then, of course, every good How to Train Your Dragon movie has a great villain. From Drago Bloodfist in the second film to Grimmel the Grizzly in the third, the series has done a fantastic job of creating memorable threats. So it wouldn't be surprising if a new enemy emerged in a fourth movie, one that could threaten both dragons and humans and force our heroes back into action. Maybe Hiccup's peaceful retirement gets interrupted and he has to step up one last time. That kind of arc would definitely hit all the right emotional beats. But all of this, as exciting as it sounds, comes with some real challenges. One of the reasons the original trilogy worked so well is because it told a full, complete story. It had a beginning, a middle, and an end. Adding to that risks diluting the emotional weight of the finale, so if they do continue it, the story needs to feel like a natural evolution, not just an excuse to sell more toys. Another thing to keep in mind is fan expectations. This franchise has a dedicated fan base, and they're not going to settle for anything that feels lazy or half-hearted. So any new installment would have to walk a fine line. It needs to hit those nostalgic beats while also doing something new and meaningful. And without Dubla to guide that tone, it could be a very tough balance to strike. Still, even if a direct sequel doesn't happen, there's plenty of room in the franchise for expansion. Spin-offs, prequels, and even TV shows could explore different corners of the dragon world. There are so many stories left to tell. For example, a prequel about the origins of the hidden world could be fascinating. How did the dragons first find it? What drove them underground? Then there's the idea of focusing on Valka, Hiccup's mother. She clearly had a whole life of adventures before reuniting with her son, and a movie or series about her younger days could add depth to the world. And let's not forget Berk. Imagine a series set years after the hidden world, showing how the village has evolved in a world without dragons. And how do the people of Berk keep their traditions alive? How do they explain the dragons to future generations? These are the kind of stories that could expand the universe while still respecting the original trilogy. There's no denying that How to Train Your Dragon has had a huge impact on animation and pop culture. The visuals alone, those sweeping shots of Toothless soaring through the clouds, are legendary. Add in John Powell's unforgettable music score and the emotional storytelling, and you've got something really special. It's not just another animated series, it's a franchise that raised the bar for what these kinds of movies could be. It also made a huge splash outside the theaters, from fan art and cosplay to collectible merchandise and theme park attractions. The franchise carved out a spot in people's hearts. DreamWorks even racked up multiple awards and nominations, including an Oscar nod for Best Animated Feature. And its success opened the door for other studios to take animated stories more seriously and aim for that same level of quality. And that's what we have to say about How to Train Your Dragon 4. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.